The scent of freshly brewed chai drifted through the air as Ayan leaned against the cold marble counter in his small kitchen, stirring absent-mindedly. The rhythmic clink of the spoon against ceramic was the only sound, aside from the occasional motorbike passing outside. His thoughts weren't on the tea. They were with Zayn. For as long as Ayan could remember, Zayn had been a constant. Ever since they were kids playing cricket in the alleyways of Gulberg, their lives had been woven together like threads of the same cloth. Where Ayan was soft-spoken and observant, Zayn was loud, bold, effortlessly magnetic. He had a kind of charm that made people gravitate toward him, girls, boys, strangers, professors. But Ayan had learned to live with the quiet ache that came from loving someone who never looked back the same way. Their bond had deepened over the years, growing into something that danced along the border of friendship and something more. Late night. Drives through the city, secret jokes no one else understood, the way Zayn would casually rest his head on Ayan's shoulder during movie nights. Every moment carried the weight of almost Ayan never confessed. He didn't want to risk losing what little he had. And so he loved Zayn in silence, allowing his heart to bleed in the spaces between their laughter. That Friday afternoon, Zayn had texted him out of the blue. "Bro, come over. Need help editing something." There was a familiar warmth in the message, a comfort Ayan hadn't felt in weeks. Lately, Zayn had been distant, showing up late to their usual hangouts, distracted in conversation, quick to brush off questions. Ayan told himself not to overthink it, but the silence between them had grown thick and awkward. He knocked on Zayn's apartment door and was greeted with a grin that felt a little too forced. The place was a mess, clothes flung across the couch, 2 energy drink cans tipped over on the table, and his laptop open with a video paused mid-frame. "You're a lifesaver," Zayn said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "This editing stuff is killing me." Ayan nodded, setting his bag down. He couldn't help but notice the faint cologne in the air one Zayn didn't usually wear. And there was something else too, a faint trace of tension in the room, like something had just been hidden. Still, they settled into their usual rhythm. Zayn cracked jokes while Ayan clicked through the footage. They argued over music choices, laughed over awkward bloopers, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed, but it had. Between the jokes, Ayan noticed the way Zayn kept checking his phone. Quick glances, unreadable expressions. At one point, a message popped up and Zayn immediately flipped the screen away. His laughter became more forced after that, his smile thinner. Ayan tried not to let it sink in. He told himself it was nothing. Maybe Zayn was just seeing someone. He had a right to. But the thought carved a hollow space in Ayan's chest. As the sun began to dip below the buildings, casting orange light across the windows, Zayn leaned back, stretching with a sigh. "Man, I miss this. Us just chilling. It's been too long." Ayan looked at him, unsure whether to smile or ask the question that had been sitting on his tongue for weeks. Instead, he just nodded. "Yeah, it has." Zayn's eyes met his for a brief second, soft, unreadable. There was something behind them, something unspoken. And then, like always, he looked away, letting the moment slip. Before Ayan left. Zayn pulled him into a half-hug, his palm lingering on Ayan's shoulder. "Let's not wait so long next time." Ayan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He didn't know what was changing between them, only that it was happening slowly, like water dripping through cracks. And whatever it was beginning to feel irreversible. As he stepped out into the night air, his heart ached with the kind of emptiness that only comes when you realize something precious is slipping through your fingers and you're not sure if you can or should hold on. The streetlights flickered above him as he walked home in silence, the warmth of Zayn's touch still burning on his shoulder, and the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much more complicated. The following days unfolded with an eerie stillness. Ayan could feel the shift in the air, subtle but undeniable, like a favorite song played slightly off-key. Zayn's presence, once dependable like the sunset, had become intermittent. Their usual routines, from spontaneous dinners to weekend drives, quietly unraveled. Ayan didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. The answers were there, etched in the silences. In the way Zayn's replies to texts grew shorter, his calls more spaced out, his laugh more distant, when they did speak, the warmth between them felt rehearsed. Zayn's eyes no longer lingered. His words were polished but hollow. Ayan tried to convince himself it was temporary. Maybe Zayn was just busy. Exams, work, life. He made excuses that even he didn't believe. But beneath those excuses was a familiar dread, something primal. Ayan had been here before, with people fading out of his life without warning, leaving behind 1,000 unanswered questions and a room full of ghosted memories. One evening, Ayan stood in front of his bedroom mirror, adjusting the cuffs of his maroon kurta. It was Eid weekend, and the neighborhood buzzed with festivity. Families gathered, lights twinkled across rooftops, and distant laughter floated through open windows. Normally, Zayn and Ayan would spend the evening hopping from house to house, soaking in the chaos, making inside jokes about tasteless sheer kurma. This time there was no invitation. Zayn hadn't messaged, hadn't called. Just absence, out. Of instinct more than intention, Ayan found himself walking toward Zayn's apartment. He wasn't sure what he'd say. Maybe nothing. Maybe just Eid Mubarak. Maybe that would be enough to break the cold spell. The hallway was dim, the air unusually warm. His heart raced faster with every step, thoughts tangling in loops. Of hope and dread. Zayn's door was slightly ajar, as if left open in haste. Ayan paused, his hand halfway raised to knock. From inside came the low hum of music, voices, one distinctly Zayn's, the other unfamiliar. Curious, cautious, Ayan stepped forward, just enough to glance through the opening. What he saw arrested him. Zayn sat on the couch, his legs draped over someone else's lap, a tall boy, unfamiliar, maybe a little older. They were laughing about something, heads tilted close, fingers interlocked like it was the most natural thing in the world. Zayn's smile was wide, unguarded, different. It wasn't the smile Ayan knew, the one that lingered, reserved only for him during quiet moments. This was freer, unburdened, intimate in a way that made Ayan feel like an intruder in a room he once belonged to. He didn't move, didn't breathe. His legs turned cold, his fingers trembled, his chest tightened with a rush of emotion too complex to name. It wasn't just the shock of seeing Zayn with someone else, it was the recognition that this side of Zayn had always existed, and Ayan had never been let in. He stepped back, slowly, quietly, the hallway swallowing the sound of his retreat. No one saw him. No one called after him. The world didn't pause to acknowledge the fracture that had just torn through his chest. Outside, the streets were alive with celebration. Firecrackers popped in the sky. Children ran through alleys holding sparklers. Ayan walked through it, all like a ghost, a shell of the boy who had left his apartment only 30 minutes earlier with foolish hope tucked in his chest. The betrayal wasn't in the fact that Zayn was with someone, it was in the secret. In the way Ayan had offered all of himself while Zayn had built walls wrapped in smiles. He had loved Zayn quietly, patiently, tenderly. But Zayn had loved someone else openly. That night, Ayan didn't cry. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, fan turning in slow, mocking circles. His phone lit up once Zayn's name on the screen, but he didn't answer. He couldn't. The weight of that image, Zayn's hand in someone else's, was too fresh, too vivid, too cruel. He turned the phone face down, rolled onto his side, and closed his eyes. But sleep never came. Only the silence, heavy and full of all the words they never said. Days turned into a blur of mechanical routine. Ayan moved through life with practiced indifference, showing up where he was expected, speaking only when required. His smile had become a performance, tight-lipped and shallow. Inside, everything felt brittle, as though the moment he let his guard down, he'd splinter into pieces too small to recover. He hadn't spoken to Zayn since that night. He hadn't replied to messages or returned calls. The silence between them was no longer passive, it was intentional, a boundary carved from pain. Zayn had texted 3 times in the past week, the last one simple and vague. Please let me explain. But what was left to explain? Ayan had already seen enough. The memory of Zayn's hand in someone else's still haunted him. Raw and visceral. He found solace in distance, choosing to spend time alone, buried in books or taking long walks through the city. Lahore was monsoon-soaked now, its streets damp with memory and regret. The air smelled of wet earth and forgotten promises. Even the rain reminded him of Zayn, how they used to sit by the window during storms, sharing headphones in silence. One afternoon, Ayan stepped into a small tea house near the canal, hoping for quiet. The place was mostly empty, save for a group of university students in the corner. He chose a booth by the window, ordered a strong chai, and pulled out his notebook, though he had no intention of writing. His mind was too loud. A familiar voice broke the hum of conversation. He didn't need to look to know who it was. I figured I'd find you here, Zayn said softly. Ayan didn't turn. His hands clenched around the cup. Zayn slid into the booth across from him. His expression tentative, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He looked like he hadn't slept well in days. Ayan finally met his gaze, and for a moment the storm between them paused. I didn't know how else to reach you, Zayn began. I didn't expect you to show up that night. I didn't plan for any of this. Ayan stayed silent, letting the weight of Zayn's words hang between them. I'm sorry, Zayn said, voice low. I should have told you. I should have been honest. Ayan finally spoke, his voice flat. You think an apology makes this easier? No, Zayn replied quickly. I don't, but you deserve more than silence. You've always deserved more. Ayan's eyes didn't waver. Then why didn't you give me that? Why keep me in the dark? I was your best friend, Zayn. Zayn exhaled, running a hand over his face, because I didn't know how to be honest with myself. I didn't want to risk losing you. You lost me anyway. Zayn looked down, shame etched across his features. That guy. The one you saw, it wasn't serious. I was trying to feel something, trying to distract myself from what I was really afraid of. Ayan blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Afraid of what? Zayn looked up. His voice trembled, but his eyes were clear. Afraid of how I felt about you. Afraid of wanting something I didn't know how to name. Afraid it would ruin everything between us if I said it out loud. Ayan's breath caught. Zayn continued, slower now. I've felt it for a long time. The closeness, the connection, but I kept pushing it away. I told myself we were just friends. That anything more would break us. And I guess, in trying to protect that, I broke us anyway. The silence that followed wasn't angry, it was stunned. Ayan searched Zayn's face for lies, for deflection, but all he saw was sincerity. The pain in his chest swelled, unfamiliar and sharp. The betrayal was still real, but now it wore a different shape. I don't know what you want from me, Ayan said, barely above a whisper. Zayn leaned in slightly, voice quiet and careful. I don't know either. I don't want to pretend anymore, not with you. If there's any part of you that still cares, still feels what I feel, I'll wait for however long it takes. Ayan's heart stirred, caught in the collision between anger and longing. He didn't respond right away. He wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. But something had shifted, a door left slightly open in a wall he'd sealed shut. He stood slowly, gathering his things. I need time, he said. Zayn nodded, eyes never leaving his. Take all the time you need. As Ayan stepped out into the dusky light, the rain had stopped, leaving the world damp and glistening. His mind echoed with Zayn's words, and though he didn't look back, his steps felt heavier, yet somehow lighter, like maybe, just maybe. The ending wasn't written yet. The days that followed were quiet, but no longer heavy. Ayan moved slower, more deliberately, as if tuning into the beat of his own heart for the first time in weeks. The chaos inside him hadn't disappeared, but it had softened, transformed from thunder into drizzle. He kept to himself, but the conversations he replayed in his head now had a different tone. Less bitterness, more wondering. Zayn didn't reach out again, and that silence was louder than anything he could have said. It wasn't the cold kind of silence. It was patient and open space left untouched, waiting. One evening, Ayan returned home after a long walk through the empty side streets of Model Town. The air carried a familiar dampness, the post-rain stillness, that always made the city feel like it was holding its breath. He entered his apartment, dropped his keys in the bowl by the door, and stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do next. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Zayn, not a paragraph, not an apology, just a single line. "I'm on the rooftop." Ayan stared at the screen. He didn't move right away. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, then fell away. He pocketed the phone and climbed the stairs, each step echoing with memory. The rooftop was dim, the skyline hazy behind a veil of thin clouds. A faint breeze stirred Zayn's hair as he sat on the edge of the low wall, legs swinging, hands tucked between his knees like he was trying to hold himself together. He turned when Ayan appeared but didn't stand. "I thought maybe you'd ignore it," he said quietly. "I almost did," Ayan replied, moving to stand a few feet away. "But I didn't." Zayn nodded. "I didn't bring you up here to ask for anything. I just wanted to be somewhere we both used to feel safe." Ayan folded his arms, eyes fixed on the city lights. "We haven't been that in a long time." "I know," Zayn said. "But I still remember it, every moment. The night you told me you wanted to leave Lahore, remember? I didn't sleep the whole night, afraid you'd go without telling me. I didn't leave. No, and I didn't say what I should have said back then either." Ayan looked at him then, the boy he'd grown up beside, the same boy he'd loved in secret, who'd once kept his heart in a locked box without even knowing it. "I kept thinking it would go away," Zayn admitted. "That if I dated enough, smiled enough, distracted myself enough, maybe I wouldn't feel it when I looked at you." Ayan's voice was low. "And did it?" Zayn met his gaze, bare and unguarded. "Never." The wind picked up slightly, carrying with it the scent of dust and coming rain. Ayan stepped closer, not fully bridging the gap, but enough that Zayn looked up with a flicker of hope in his eyes. "You hurt me," Ayan said. "Not just that night, for months. You shut me out while I was still holding the door open." Zayn's throat moved as he swallowed. "I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want to be honest now." For the first time, there was a long pause, suspended in silence. Then Ayan spoke, slow and uncertain. "You said you were afraid of ruining us. But keeping things unsaid, that's what ruined us." Zayn gave a slight, sad smile. "Maybe, but if this is the ruin, I still want to rebuild it." Ayan sat beside him, leaving inches between them. "I don't know what this is yet, or what it could be." "You don't have to know. I just want to start from where we are." 4. A while, neither of them said anything. They sat together in the quiet, the way they used to. And in that silence, something fragile began to breathe again. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It wasn't a confession either, but it was honest. And that was new. Ayan looked at Zayn out of the corner of his eye. "Next time, just talk to me. No more hiding." Zayn nodded slowly. "No more hiding." The clouds parted slightly, and a sliver of moonlight broke through, casting silver across the rooftop. Ayan didn't reach for Zayn's hand, and Zayn didn't offer his. But they both stayed there, side by side, letting the moment carry its own weight. There would be more to say, more to face. But for the first time in a long time, neither of them was alone, and somehow that felt like enough for now.